And now, breaking the news with Dan and Jordan.
Our sponsor for this week is Jackson's Fire. If Jackson's Fire can't burn down your house, nothing can. Jackson's, guaranteed to burn the hottest or your money back. And now, our top stories. Astronauts have been jonesing for some music up on the International Space Station. And since sound waves don't travel through space, many thought they'd just have to live with it. Well, not anymore. Thanks to a partnership between the Seattle Symphony Orchestra and NASA, musicians will be placed into bubbles and sent up so the astronauts have something to enjoy on their spacewalks.
You know, it's outstanding that they've been able to do this collaboration between the music industry and the space industry, sending all these musicians up there, and it's gone quite flawlessly up until this point.
Absolutely. And although the musicians have to sit in an individual bubble and communicate only with their fellow orchestra members by radio, they've been surprisingly in sync.
I hear for the testing running up to this, they only lost a dozen astronauts due to the rigorous demands that it takes to travel into space.
That's correct, Jordan, and they also only lost 4 oboe players.
Well, I think we could all stand to lose a few more, couldn't we? Breaking news from Season 6 of So You Think You Can Unicycle. Contestants this year were tasked with traveling on unicycle while playing a bagpipe that shoots flames out of the top all the way from the peak of Mount Kilimanjaro to the base of the mountain and beyond. Ratings have been dipping down a little, so they're hoping to add a little excitement with the flaming bagpipes on top of the already breathtaking action of unicycling.
Well, I'm more of a purist when it comes to unicycling, Jordan. I think adding all the bagpipes and flames and all the effects just really, really cheapens the game.
Yeah, it's a shame to get them away from the pure sport and pure art of unicycling and add all this extra glitz on top. But it has attracted an extra 4 viewers, so the network is claiming it to be a big success.
Well, you can't argue with results. Breaking news now from the world of luxury automobiles. Now, Jordan, you drive an SUV, that's right?
I do.
I also drive an SUV, but what if I told you that next year, the Mercedes Corporation is introducing a line of vehicles even more large and obnoxious for the city street driver?
Well, I'd say sign me up.
Well, you can now sign up for pre-orders of the new luxury tank automobile. These bad boys will be driving down the block over top of cars and anything else that gets in their way starting next year.
This is exactly what you like to see in a tank. You like to see a luxurious interior, smooth leather, you get that fresh smell. Tanks smell like oil and grease, but a luxury tank smells like lavender.
Indeed, this is the final piece of the puzzle as far as this reporter is concerned. I would have already been in a tank had it had these fabulous features beforehand.
Get a lot of miles to the gallon. It's a vehicle well worth purchasing. Breaking news from the world of weddings. The WWE is now offering bridesmaids a chance to battle it out for the bouquet in several different types of matches, including, but not limited to, Hell in a Cell, a Royal Rumble, and a Battle Royale. These lucky bridesmaids can slug it out, slamming each other and suplexing each other and getting the 1, 2, 3 on catching that bouquet.
Now, one thing the WWE would like you to know about this story is that if the bouquet is tossed over the top rope, it must land completely on the floor for it to count.
That's right.
Breaking news now. Back in the world of music. Jordan, remember last week when I told you I was going to attend an Eagles concert?
I do. I'm a big fan of their music, and you didn't tell me how it went. I hope you had a good time.
I had an amazing time, but you seemed very confused when we were having that conversation, talking about music and the like, guitars and drums. I was very confused by the conversation. So I brought this story as a way to not only educate the public, but to educate you. Bald eagles are now playing concerts. Yes, the concert I saw was several bald eagles, all screeching in unison, and some of the sounds they were making were otherworldly.
Dan, do you mean to tell me that Joe Walsh and Don Henley have lost their hair?
No, Jordan. No.
Okay, good. I was worried there for a second. Breaking news from the world of the law. Judge Elephant, an elephant judge, has tossed out a case from the Supreme Court. And this case was a very important case because a lot of people were insinuating that elephants, alongside birds and lizards and other wild conspiracy theories of the like, have infiltrated every level of government and industry. An elephant judge was quick to toss this case out of the courtroom based on a complete lack of evidence, unsubstantiated claims, and in some cases, outright lies.
And who better to judge a liar than an elephant? After all, an elephant never forgets. So if you say one thing around an elephant and then years later say something different, he'll be able to catch you right away.
That's right. They have excellent memories. And when they bang their gavel, they can generate enough force to crush a man's head.
I'm still surprised that they use gavels and don't just stamp down with their mighty legs.
Me too, but they had to make the switch to gavels after several elephants caused a stampede within the nation's courtrooms, killing dozens.
A truly, truly tragic day in American jurisprudence. Breaking news now from the world of alien invasions. Well, recently Tokyo had a pretty big scare. Many thought that the city was being invaded by alien spacecraft, and so obviously some were committing violence, looting, killing themselves, flinging themselves into the ocean or volcanoes, only to find out it was a promotional stunt for the upcoming crossover movie between Star Trek and Star Wars. Yes, 2 full-size starships were flown over top of Tokyo in what was meant to be a lighthearted, fun way of promoting this brand new franchise. The death toll currently stands at 78 people.
Now, I can only assume that this is going to have massive repercussions for the revenue of this new film.
I would imagine so as well, Jordan. I think people are going to really want to see what film caused the death of 78 people. Currently, this is the most fatal film that has ever been conceived of or shot.
Wow. Well, when it comes to watching this film, you can beam me up. I'd like to be there. Breaking news now. You may have heard recently about the appearance of a mysterious monolith in Utah. And of course, you may have also heard that monoliths have appeared in other strange places, like Argentina and in Germany. But we have reports now, a breaking news report, that a monolith has just been spotted having appeared in an old painting of Benjamin Franklin. The monolith, shiny, silver, and it showed up in this painting. Nobody's quite sure why it's there or what its purpose is, but scientists have concluded that it is there.
Wow, I'm actually taken aback. I will come out right now and admit that I thought these monoliths were a hoax by people who were putting them out there, just bringing them in a truck or something. But to have irrefutable proof like this inside of a painting of Benjamin Franklin, just that blows my mind.
Yes. A lot of people think that Benjamin Franklin is dead. And they're right to think that because he is. But this painting is still very much here. And it looks like the monoliths are here as well.
Well, I have some breaking news, Jordan. For years, researchers thought that the Amazon rainforest had been fully explored and that all lost tribes had been discovered. Until today. A pack of wild Ronald McDonalds have been found living in the deepest regions of the Amazon rainforest. Now, dating back to 1978, when a helicopter crashed down there and carrying the cast and crew of a McDonald's commercial, and everybody thought it was lost, but apparently what happened was this tribe found the body of Ronald McDonald and decided to adopt his many teachings.
It's a special moment in history when something like this happens, and I wonder if society and civilization is going to try to integrate these Ronald McDonalds, or if they're going to just allow them to live their lives uncontacted?
Well, here's hoping that they allow them to live uncontacted, because what we've been able to learn about this tribe is truly interesting. They call their children McNuggets up until the age of 12, at which point they are put through a test of manhood by fighting a large purple blob-like creature known as the Grimace.
Well, out of the playpen and into the death pit. That's what they say.
Indeed.
Breaking news now. The Rock is the world's biggest movie star. In fact, The Rock has gotten so big that he has sought out solitude at the top of a mountain. Now, the mountain that he's at is kind of isolated, kind of remote, but that hasn't stopped fans, and particularly fans able to hike and climb mountains, from reaching the precipice where The Rock is located. Now, in order to ensure The Rock's privacy, signs have been installed asking climbers and tourists to please not climb on The Rock. However, even with the sign in place, people are climbing on him.
I can understand the reasoning behind this. If you see a huge movie star like The Rock, you're going to want to run up to him. And if you're making your way to the top of a treacherous mountain peak, you may also get confused thinking, oh, there's just a little way left to go to the summit. So it makes sense on both levels.
And especially because The Rock is so big, he can easily be confused for being part of the mountain.
That's true. I really appreciate The Rock's rolling, curvy arms and all that. They're a much easier climb than some of the more treacherous peaks out there.
Indeed. And treachery is what brings us to our next segment. We go now to our expert interview. I'm here to interview an expert on this show, and the expert that we have brought on is none other than Dan Moser. Dan, welcome to the show.
Hello. Good to see you. Good to be here.
Now, Dan, you have a lot of experience with things that are treacherous, in particular, the treachery of ignoring things and how treacherous that can be. And you actually have a new book out, which I would like to plug now, 7 Things You Can Safely Ignore. So just to recap for our viewers, these are things that you can ignore without worrying about treachery. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Now, most things have at least some element of treachery to them, and if you ignore them, they can creep up on you, stab you in the back, and leave you lying there wondering what went wrong. But the 7 items listed in this book are absolutely free of treachery.
It's amazing. Now, can you tell me what got you started on ignoring things?
Yes, Jordan. I used to pay careful attention and close attention to things. I used to, when I was driving, for instance, have my eyes open wide, my hands firmly on the wheel. And I just thought to myself, I'm spending so much time in my day paying attention to things that I just don't have time for myself.
It's important to have time for yourself, that's for sure. Although, have you ever ignored time for yourself and found yourself not taking time for yourself?
Yes, I have. But I don't work that way anymore. Now, that's the one thing I do pay attention to.
Fascinating. Now, Dan, I'd like to know, and I think our viewers at home would like to know as well, how long can you ignore something before you're forced to deal with it?
Great question. One I get asked all the time. And for a layman, it makes sense to ask that as one question. But when you become an expert in ignoring things and the consequences of them, you really have to break it down into each individual item. So, if you're bleeding, you could probably ignore that for a relatively good amount of time. But if you're on fire, it's going to be a lot more treacherous if you ignore it for an extended period of time.
Now, I know there's an entire chapter of your book dedicated to this. We could spend an hour talking about this easily. But can you quickly break down for our viewers at home the difference between being ignorant and being an ignoramus?
Yes, I can break that down for them. I don't want to give too much away because it's kind of covered in an entire chapter in my book, and I've used up a lot of the material there, but I can give a couple of points on this. So to be ignorant of something, you just have to not know it's there, and never have known it's there. It's as easy as that. But to be truly ignorant, but to be a true ignoramus, you have to have awareness that that thing is there and be actively ignoring it.
Oh, I see. So the ignoramus actively ignores things, while the ignorant merely passively ignore them.
Exactly. Jordan, for instance, if you and I had passed on the street and I never saw you because I was staring at my phone or something, then that's fine. I'm just ignorant of you. But if you said, "Hey, Dan, how's it going?" as I walked by and I, continued steadfastly looking at my phone, that is me being an ignoramus.
Fascinating stuff. Now, Dan, can you tell us where ignoring things originated, or maybe who was the first person to ignore something?
I first thought that it was me when I started this journey, but I have since come to learn that I did not, in fact, originate ignoring things. Ignoring things can be traced back to the caveman days, actually. When a caveman ignored fire, and another caveman came by, found the fire, and was burnt up.
Fascinating. And we have time for one more quick question.
Okay.
What does the future hold for the ignorant and for the ignoramus?
For the ignorant, the future is wide open. Anything you don't know is going to be coming to you. You'll get a joy out of learning it. Maybe you'll learn about whales. Maybe you'll learn about those little candy whales, that taste so delicious.
The blue ones, yes.
For the ignoramus, however, it's going to be a constant vigilance to maintain knowing things, learn new things, and then cut them off from yourself completely.
It's fantastic. Once again, the title of your book, 7 Things You Can Safely Ignore, and I hear that you're working on a sequel, Ignore This Book at Your Own Peril.
Yes. I want to create a little more urgency this time so that people actually buy the book. The other book sold very poorly.
Well, I, for one, look forward to reading it, and I hope to have you back on this show someday.
I hope to be back.
Thank you, Dan. And now we go to sports with Dan Moser.
Well, Jordan, thank you for introducing me here. I've got some very exciting sports breaking news. In Game 1 of the World Hockey Finals between Team USA, aka the District 9 Mighty Ducks, versus Trinidad and Tobago, Team USA won with a commanding 9-2 victory.
Wow, 9-2. That is a huge margin of victory.
Absolutely. Connie Moreau, Dean Portman, and Kenny Wu all scored for Team USA, while Adam Banks was nowhere to be found. Very surprising. He's been a leader on this team.
A lot of people were hoping that Adam Banks was going to be the star of the show when it came time for that puck to drop. And unfortunately, the only thing that dropped were our expectations when we realized Adam Banks wasn't going to play.
That is sadly true.
Unbelievable. Well, Dan, I also have some breaking news in the world of sports. And this news has to do with bowling. You see, while we may not have a Team USA in bowling, we do have some notable accomplishments. Notably, a gentleman named Neil Bays from St. Louis on December 5th bowled with his right hand, and on June 20th bowled with his left hand.
What?
Now, many others have also achieved this feat, but it's important to note that Neil Bays did this in 1963 and again in 1970.
Amazing.
We also have some more breaking news from the world of bowling. Scott Ward, who's only 4 years old, bowled on the following dates. He bowled in Flint, Michigan on October 1st in 2002, November 7th in 2007, January 15th in 2008, and March 17th in 2008.
Jordan, I appreciate the breaking news reports as always, but you can't have your little nephew Scott Ward. You can't report his bowling scores here, okay? No more reporting on family stuff.
All right, very well. Then I move on to my next report about Jeffrey Hicks, who bowled in Allen Park, Michigan on June 2nd, 2004, April 11th, 2010, December 17th, 2010, and March 12th, 2016.
Thank you. That's better. The relevant news that our audience wants to hear. And speaking of which, I have some breaking news I'd like to report. Back in that hockey tournament I was speaking of. Game 3 has just taken place between Team USA and Team Iceland, and Team USA just got pounded, losing 12-1.
Oh my goodness.
Now, Adam Banks did score the lone goal for Team USA, but it was just an absolute blowout, with Dean Portman receiving a 2-minute roughing penalty, then being thrown out for 10 minutes. This was really the turning point in the game.
I got place a lot of the responsibility for this loss on the shoulder of Adam Banks, because only scoring one goal after not even showing up for the previous game, this is abysmal.
I agree, but there's more than that enough blame to go around with goalie Greg Goldberg allowing 12 goals on only 4 shots against.
Well, I don't know how Goldberg can really take all the blame for that. I mean, he's out there, he's watching his team get slaughtered. You know, what more can he do? He's bound to let that stress get to him a bit, let a couple goals slip by. 12 goals in 4 minutes, you said?
No, 12 goals on 4 shots. He faced 4 shots and allowed 12 goals.
My goodness. Well, that's not good. That's not good.
But credit to the coach who let him play the game out, let him try to get his bearings back and get it going again.
Well, I don't think Goldberg should be focusing on his bearings. I think he should focus on the game. He can deal with his bearings after the game. Sad to see. Sad to see. What an embarrassing loss for Team USA.
I don't know how they're going to come back from this.
I don't know. I only hope that they can stage the type of comeback that 76-year-old Bill Bonetta of Fresno, California did on October 25th, 1995, when he bowled 300 consecutive games.
300 consecutive games?
Yeah, at 76 years old.
Wow. I'm only able to bowl maybe 280 games at one time.
Well, that's the difference, Dan, between an amateur bowler and a professional bowler.
Indeed. Well, that brings us to the end of our sports segment, so I'd like to turn it over to Jordan Ward with traffic. Jordan?
Thank you, Dan. Breaking news. When it comes to traffic, we're all familiar with the things that traffic brings along with it. Crashes, jams, wait times at red lights. But what maybe you didn't know is that space experiences just as many traffic issues as we have here on Earth. For example, some aliens were found dead after being hit by a space shuttle as they were forced into oncoming traffic near Jupiter. Police are investigating the crash, and no arrests have been made as of yet because all the debris has floated away to a different galaxy.
Well, breaking news here also in space traffic. Updating a story we reported earlier. When the musicians were sent up into space, many were jubilant and were happy to have this new technology applied. But what we didn't really account for was the amount of closures that there would be in important space lanes. So there's all kinds of traffic around Earth right now. You're going to want to avoid that. If it's up to me, you want to orbit a different planet right now.
You know, in space, there's really only 2 seasons. There is the crushing cold void of space and construction. And there's just no way around it. You know, these pylons are clogging up space, interstellar space and stellar space, both of them. And, you got to wait there until somebody in a spacesuit holding a stop sign decides to turn it around to let you pass.
Yeah, it's a real hassle. That's why I don't even bother with space anymore when I commute. I'm now commuting strictly on submarine.
See, now that's
But let me tell you some breaking news, Jordan. Submarine traffic has increased by over 700% since this latest space traffic jam.
My goodness. Well, there's also been a 700% increase in the amount of fines being handed out, specifically speeding fines, because Dan, I don't know if you know this, but some of this space debris can reach speeds nearing the speed of light.
I had heard this, yes. But I was just very surprised because I would thought that there would be patrols up there making sure that everybody's following the speed limit, pulling them over, issuing tickets if they were exceeding it. Now, I don't know the exact conversion, but I assume the speed of light is more than around 100 kilometers per hour?
A little bit more, yes. Slightly more. And they really shouldn't be letting these speeders flaunt the law, even in space. They're setting
totally
one
agree.
standard for themselves and another standard for everyone else. I got to do 30 through a school zone, but a meteor can zip past our planet at 600 million miles an hour? Doesn't seem fair.
No, I completely agree with you on that one, Jordan. I've long thought that is a rule that needs to get dealt with.
Well, I hope they clamp down on these people flouting the law, quite frankly. They're flouting it.
Well, one last piece of breaking news here in traffic, Jordan. I just wanted to let you know that we can't carpool today, I'm afraid.
Oh, no. That's unfortunate. What seems to be the issue?
Well, I'm doing a submarine to work now, as I mentioned. And I know you live on land, so it's going to be kind of hard. It's just out of my way, you know?
Oh, that's understandable. I was really looking forward to, taking the submarine out on land, taking it for a spin.
Sure.
I guess I'll just have to walk home. It's unfortunate. Breaking news, I will be walking home after the show because my co-anchor Dan has declined to give me a ride in his submarine. So, if the local municipality decides they want to flood the streets and put a remedy to this before we wrap up the show, I highly encourage it.
I would also encourage it. I'd be happy to give you a ride if the local municipality floods the streets. Solves both our problems.
Now, that would solve not just our problems, but quite frankly, a lot of this city's problems as well. If we just flood all the streets, all of our problems would just wash away.
This brings us to our final segment of the night, the wrap-up. Now, I'd like to tell you about a couple of stories that we're working on for next week. Jordan, you remember how you thought your wife was cheating on you with that Jack fella?
Yes, Jack the pool boy.
Yes. I now have exclusive news that your wife is actually cheating with a guy at her gym named Frank.
Oh, thank goodness. I was really worried that it was Jack, and now I can let all of those suspicions go. I totally trust her again.
We'll have more on this report next week, but we have some astonishing video footage that you will not believe.
Also, coming up next week, 7 things you didn't know that were valuable inside of your garbage bin. I'll be diving deep into a garbage bin and showing you 7 rich resources that you didn't know existed.
Can you give us a little preview of that story, Jordan? Maybe just 1 or 2 items so we can get started?
Sure, I'd love to, Dan. A lot of people will crack eggs open, make a lovely omelet, maybe a fried egg, maybe a scrambled egg. But what they often do after that is throw the shells right in the trash.
I do that!
The shells can provide a nice, fun crunch if you just pop them in your mouth. It's a fun sound, a rich resource that people often just disregard.
Oh, wow. That's a really great tip.
Also, tune in next week for the great debate when we find out what the superior punctuation is, ? Or exclamation point.
I say exclamation point!
Well, now we know Dan's position on that important topic. Tune in next week to find out the real answer. It's exclamation point.
And one final story that we're working on for next week is about you. That's right, you, the person listening to this right now. We have some information on you that you're going to want to hear. It's very important.
Yes, you can only hear it on this station. So make sure you tune in next week for those stories and more as we take the news and we break it just for you.
Thank you for watching, everyone.
This has been Breaking the News with Dan and Jordan.